What is up, everybody? This is Recap Rewind. I am NB. You are listening and watching a very special episode of the podcast today. This episode is recapping Riverdale Season 7, Episode 10, and it's called Chapter 127, American Graffiti. And as you can tell, J-Lag is not here for this episode, but I'm joined by two very special friends of Recap Rewind. Welcome back, No Context Riverdale, and welcome for the first time on this podcast, Mackenzie Burns. Hey guys.
Hey.
Hi. Thank you both for joining us today.
I'm so glad to be back.
Yeah. So you can follow Macy on Twitter at NoContextRVD, and then follow Mackenzie on Twitter at MackenzieL Burns. And then as always, don't forget to stay tuned to the very end of the episode. We're going to go over our recap roundups, and then you guys sent in all your theories and questions for season 7. So we're going to discuss that as well. So be sure to stick around for the end of the podcast for that. And we can get into the episode. So overall thoughts, like, did you guys like it? What's the vibe?
I really enjoyed it. I didn't get to watch it last night when it was live, so I got to watch it this morning. And I just loved the mix of like Archie and Reggie and their goofiness. But then there was also a serious element to the show. I think it was a good mix. I really enjoyed the episode overall.
Yeah.
It was one of those episodes where it's like you got the comedy from obviously that side of the storyline, but then you also got the really deep and aspects of the show that they have been carrying throughout, which is not only Jughead and Tabitha's storyline, but the storyline with the obviously Black Literary Society with Tony, Tabitha, and Clay, and how Cheryl interacts with that storyline as long as Kevin. It was really good.
Really amazing stuff. Like, you guys really nailed it. Like, I'm watching and I'm saying this like all season, and I'm just blown away at what we're getting in terms of like the conversations these characters are having, the topics that they're covering, like the whole what was the book club called? Black Athena.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, this is amazing. Like, the conversations that come out of these scenes, it was just so profound. And then, yeah, you mix in Cheryl, you mix in Kevin, like you're getting an amazing storyline. And then we get, the Reggie and Archie of it all. And it's just like, it puts a smile. Like, it was just, I'm just blown away. I'm truly blown away this season and how good this is. Mackenzie, you mentioned earlier, Twitter's been talking. And
Yes.
what are they saying?
There is a lot of mixed emotions about this episode in terms of the Barchie of it all, the veggie of it all, the drama that's come. People are obviously freaking out about certain things that happened in this episode, but overall, a lot of people like a lot of the other aspects of this. It's just the ship drama that's going off right now. And what's coming seemingly is going to be what is going to make everybody happy in the end.
Yeah, because it sounds like people are impatient. That's kind of what I'm hearing is like, they're like, okay, but what's happening? Like, how are we going to get back to the original timeline? We don't really get much of that this week. And I know J-Lag was impatient last week. He's like, what's happening? Like, what's going on? And I'm kind of just like living in the moment. I'm like, this is so awesome. But there are a couple of things, and we can discuss it later in theories of like what might be sort of hinting at how do we get back. Because I mentioned, I think last week or the week before, the Babylonium. I was like, it'd be amazing if like the movies could somehow like bring them back into like the future or like the current timeline or like something like that, right? Even with like the literature, like I wonder if that's going to be something that like they tie into like present day, and there's just like a whole lot that they could do with it. So yeah, I'm excited. Okay, so we will get into recapping the episode. We're not going to go scene by scene this week because I think we're going to have a lot to talk about after. But in terms of the main storylines, we really get the Black Athena Literary Club with, CHONI and Kevin and Clay. And then we get the double date that we've been waiting for, which really kind of wasn't even like a double date.
No.
Well, it's actually the boys were on a date and the girls were just in the periphery of this conversation.
Totally.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, sorry, Macy.
I just wanted to say, like, it was just like I wrote in my notes, I was like, they finally get to go out with the hottest girls in school, and they screw it up by being obsessed with this
Totally.
car.
It's like they were fighting over the car. Like that was the girl in this, dynamic.
Yeah. But
It's
it
so
shows
crazy.
how like they're just total teenagers, you
Yeah.
know? They're so oblivious to, how to date and everything. They're just like in their own little minds.
And their own
So,
egos, right? Because like up until
yeah.
this point, like Archie has been amazing to Reggie. Like
Yeah.
he's been so nice to him, like so
Mhm.
welcoming. And really this episode, like we get this like petty Archie where he's like, you're
Yeah.
overstepping a little bit. Like go back.
When he was being
I
like a
I loved it.
dad, and when Reggie
Yeah.
comes home, I was like, this is taking me out.
It was so funny.
It was so funny and like I rarely like laugh at Riverdale. Like I giggle, I smirk, but I really laughed this week. And like
Yeah.
especially that last scene when they're in the auto shop and like Archie's like, "Wait, what did you guys see?" He's like not in on the joke.
He
I
was
loved
like
it.
third wheeling the
Yeah.
whole encounter.
It was so fun.
Oh, so good. And then of course, and then we have the Rayberry mystery, which kind of it does like we do make some progress in that. And I was really intrigued by that this episode. So those are the main storylines. And then the side storyline with Fangs and Midge. I was
Hmm.
like, I don't get why we're seeing this right now, but
I wrote in my notes, I wrote like while they were having their little moments, I was like, remember when Fangs was like arrested for Midge's murder? Anyone remember that?
yes. And
Like
that's
it's so crazy to think how we've gone to this 1950s. They're like having a baby and stuff now.
so,
Yeah.
okay, let's talk about that, right? Because this really did feel random to me, right? Like, why are we dealing with Fangs and
Yeah.
Midge? I was gonna call them Fidge. Fangs and Midge having a baby, and like his whole storyline's like, I'm gonna get famous so then I can like tell your parents and like impress them. But I'm just like, why are we focusing on this? Is there a connection? Because obviously, in the present
Mhm.
timeline, like you're saying, he did have something to do or was somehow connected to Midge. So now, in this sense, they're connected in a different way.
It seems like if we're going off of like comic book east type things, it's like kind of Fangs has been replaced by Moose in a way because they were such a couple in the comics. So they're
Mm.
kind of playing with that. But then also with the whole pregnancy thing, I guess that's supposed to be the vehicle for Anthony's immortal soul because Anthony is this
Oh,
immortal
Oh.
character. So I guess that's why, because we're gonna have to, because we've obviously gotten CHONI now. So it's like if we are supposed to bring back Anthony, this is how we do it. I don't know.
oh my God.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't
Yeah.
think
Management.
about that.
Yeah, that's a good point. Which, okay, leads me to my next question, and this is kind of like pulled from the theory section, but are we assuming that every character that lives in the present timeline has to be in this timeline?
Yes.
Huh.
Because
Well,
Julian is different, right?
Well,
yeah.
they've been, because if we go back to what Tabitha said, told Jughead before she erased his memory, it was like, I picked this universe or like this timeline. So there's gonna be different characters. So there are variables.
Mm,
So like Julian is a variable of this timeline that doesn't exist. And then like the principal being called Featherhead, which is like a connection to when the parents were teenagers, like that was their principal's
right.
name. So it's like different variables in this like timeline because also we haven't met Marty and Melinda Mantle yet. Like, are they
Yeah.
gonna show up at one point?
Yeah.
Like, that's
Is
when
Polly gonna show up?
Is Polly gonna
Because
show
she was
up?
there
mentioned.
there is
Yes.
behind the scenes thing of her being on set, I think, for one of the later episodes.
Oh.
Oh, I
So she
wonder.
is a real character that exists.
Yeah.
Don't know why they don't talk about her. I mean, in comics canon, I think she's like a full blown adult when Betty's a
Hmm.
teenager. So maybe
She's a
that,
Oh.
reporter, isn't
yeah,
she, in the
yeah.
comics? Yeah.
So that's
So
Makes
my,
you go,
maybe she is like off at college or something.
mhm.
yeah. And like Hal has meant they've mentioned her before, right? In this timeline, like they
Yes.
do. Okay.
One time,
Betty
and
Betty mentioned her one time.
Mm, okay. Okay, so yeah, to cover off like Fang's storyline, because like that's the fastest one. Basically, what's happening at the end of this episode is like it's leading up to this performance in Centerville, and Fangs is performing, and
Mhm.
he's so excited, and he's like, "I'm gonna like impress you, and I'm gonna get famous." And then we don't actually see the performance, which I was like, "Thank God." And then
too expensive to do that.
yeah, and then but in the end, interesting, he comes to school and like he's famous, like everyone's like swooning over him and like they're and then I'm like, oh, is he gonna like forget about Midge now, like that he's famous? And he doesn't
Yeah.
really do that. He does go to her and they have a cute little moment, which again, I'm like, why are they spending so much time with these two? Like, what are we getting at?
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I
That's
think it's just to give him a storyline, to be honest.
That
Like
could be
he's so
true.
removed from everybody else. It's just like, here's a storyline.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Mackenzie, to your point, maybe it has something to do with baby Anthony. Like, I guess we'll see if that does
Hmm.
come around.
Yeah.
But that's it for the Fang storyline. We can go and move over to really the Black Athena book club, right? Because it kind of starts
Hmm.
off with this, and I think they're reading a book by Ralph Ellison, Invisible Men, and they're
Hmm.
kind of just like saying, their perspective and their opinions. Um, and Clay says something really powerful, and he says, "It's not a book about day to day life. It's about what it feels like in the scope of our human experience to walk around in our skin." There was really beautiful lines throughout like all
Hmm.
their
Oh,
scenes, and then through this conversation, Cheryl kind of like peeks her head in and she's like, oh, like this looks like fun, like I want to be a part of this. By the way, I totally forgot they were still together at first, because I'm like, she was so like standoffish at first.
Yeah.
mm,
So basically what happens is Cheryl, she really misses Tony. She tells her like, I really miss you, and she wants to come to the next book club and learn and like just be a part of it. And she hopes that like she's welcome to this. um but then like Tony kind of is like, no. She's kind of like, no, like I don't know, like we just like want to like develop like the club first, and then like I'll invite you like after. What did you guys think of that?
I just assumed that, Tony was just nervous about how the group would receive Cheryl because of, her background and everything. She's a part of, like she said in when she went to the meeting, like, how her family is like very well known. She's like the Daltons in the story of the native son. And um I just think she was just nervous about that. And I guess maybe for Clay with Kevin, I guess it just wasn't the same. I don't know, because Kevin, his father's the sheriff. So I feel like there's some
I just
issues
think
with that. So it's like, I don't know.
I thought it was weird at first, because I mean, at first I thought, I was like, okay, she has a point. But then later on in the episode, we hear that Kevin got invited to the book club by
Mhm.
Clay. And then it hit me and I was like, girl, like that's kind of tight that like you didn't welcome her
Yeah.
more. Um and do they explain why Clay invited? I think Clay is
It
just
was like Tony, I think, says it's like because Clay had written a poem and that he wanted Kevin there for it. But it's
right.
like, why are you denying share? I guess it was to be like an angsty moment for Shoni to be like in that weird awkward thing. But then why do that when they have that scene later on, like after they're like cleaning up from the meeting? It's like
Mhm.
it's weird angst in the middle of an episode. They
Yeah.
just had a whole bunch of angst
I think it's a
before.
fair point though, right? Like when we look at it from the outside, like at that time, like I totally get where
Mhm.
Tony was coming from. But this is the thing with Tony that I was kind of like confused about. She came into this season like hot and confident and cocky and like really like confident in her own skin, right? And her sexuality. And she was like all over Cheryl, and like she's like, we can do this, like we got this. But then I'm seeing a very different Tony where she's kind of like, I don't know how to navigate this. I don't know what to do. She's kind of not really sure of herself and in the relationship. So that's what caught me off guard a little
Hmm.
bit, because it's not a Tony that we've seen thus far. Um,
I think that it was because, Tony's used to being with, her greaser group and
Mm-hmm.
like, just I don't know, being reckless and just having fun. But like with Cheryl, she's like really, I guess she's afraid of her own emotions, maybe
Mm.
because it's so serious and she's never been in a serious relationship before. And so she's kind of like, that's where her vulnerable side comes out, where she's just nervous about this, like uncharted waters.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I see it.
Yeah. And I mean, like Cheryl has been amazing. Like she
Oh
has
yeah.
blown it out of the water. She impresses me every week, and in this episode, she does it again. Like her eagerness to learn and like educate
Mhm.
herself and like be a part of it and not shy away. Like she could have easily been like, "Forget it. Like I'm not part of your world." Like which is kind of what we got like a couple of weeks ago too. But she really pushes to be a part of it, and the willingness is there. I loved Cheryl this week. Like loved her.
Mhm.
Yeah, and Clay too. Like Clay's really growing on me. Like he's a really strong character. I'm really loving his character.
It was funny how he was like, I read this book like 3 times already, but we're gonna talk about it again.
Yeah.
Like, acting a little pretentious about this one book. It's like, boy,
Yeah.
calm down.
There was a really sweet moment where another student in the book club who we don't even know, like I don't even think he had a name, he kind of like gets mad at Cheryl because she's like, "Oh, I read the book." And he's like, "I guess this is the only book you've read from like a
Mhm.
black artist." And she's like, "Well,
Mhm.
yeah." And then Clay like turns around, he's like, "Don't worry." He's like, "We'll get you to like read more and like it's okay. Like everyone like reads at their own like whatever." I just thought that was really nice to put that in there
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
It's really good writing overall. So that's kind of where they leave off, right? Like what happens with Shoni in the end. I think they like plan to work on it. Like they're good, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they want to have
Right.
like they have like a moment at the end where it's like they're cleaning up or whatever and wanting to go because they also go to the Fangs performance with like Midge and
Right.
everything.
Right.
Mhm.
So like that was like the end of that storyline. We'll
I
get to
wonder if like they shot that and they just never put it in the episode because it was such a big thing of the episode. Like everyone was going to this performance and then they never ended up doing anything with it.
somewhere sitting on the
Yeah.
cutting room floor, I guess.
Yeah. Whoever wants to see Fangs perform, they could buy that extended cut.
The deleted scenes in
Yeah.
the box set.
Okay, so that's kind of that storyline. And then we can go over to should we do the double date next?
Sure. I
Yeah.
don't know.
Okay, so the double date. So everyone's like excited about this double date shenanigans. It was so funny. But it's not really the double date that we wanted or
No.
expected. It's really cute. Archie's kind of like got his groove back because he has his car now. And he shows Reggie the car and he's like, "Oh my God, like this is it. Like this is lit. It's gonna be amazing." So they go to school in the hot rod and now everyone's like, "Oh my God, like what a cool car." And Veronica is actually the first one to start sort of this whole date night kind of thing. And she walks up to Reggie. She's like, "Look, I'm sorry. Like, I had no time for you last week, but I want to do this again." What do you guys think about their chemistry?
It's different
Yeah.
than, their chemistry in the
The
normal
original?
timeline. Yeah. So it's interesting. I feel like we got to see more of them before
Hmm.
I like really know. I feel like because we didn't even get to see their date,
No.
so I don't know their dynamic really.
I was
Yeah.
really waiting for this week to happen so that I could see if I wanted that. Like, I'm like, I need to see them like
Mhm.
I don't know, like hug, kiss, like something a bit more intimate because we
Yeah.
haven't really seen that yet. And then, so basically, what happens is Veronica asks Reggie out. He's like, "Yeah, let's go out. Like, let's try this again." But we don't actually get their date. Like, we don't even see that date. What ends up happening is basically Reggie asks Archie if he could borrow his car. Archie's like, "Okay, like fine." And then Veronica and him go out, and then cut to um
It's the Betty and Archie date
it's
that
the
we will
Betty and
actually see the
Archie.
POV kind of from.
Right. Cause so then it cuts to Betty asking Archie, "Let's go on a date." Archie's like, "Damn, I just gave my car away. Like, I don't have a car." She's like, "We could just walk." And he's like, okay, whatever." But basically, that whole night they're at Pops, like Archie and Betty, and Archie's like distracted. He's like looking out for like Reggie and the car, and like it's like he's not showing up, and like he says something really funny. He's like, where else is there to go in this town but Pops? Like, where are you?
He says it so loud. It's
He
so funny.
was so mad.
It's like
And
when Maddie's like, I have my hands on like the steering wheel, and he's like, wheel, car,
yeah,
what?
he's like, wheel, gas.
That was so funny.
Oh my god, their acting was amazing. This like it's been so good. And then
Archie is so animated that
yes.
in this timeline, and I know KJ is just having the best
Oh,
time.
He's so
he's having
funny.
such a good time. Like you can just see it on his face.
Yeah,
Even when they were in the locker room and they're like Mikasa Asuka, like they're just
yeah,
so funny. They're so good together.
yeah.
I
It's
think it
really-
would have I think it would have been a huge miss if Charles didn't make it into the season.
Mhm.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
There'd be that
definitely.
missing element that you're like, where is it?
Yeah.
Like, especially,
100%.
and then really with this episode, half this content wouldn't have existed. You
Yeah.
have to rewrite it into something else.
Yeah, and
Mhm.
like there's just something so beautiful of you think this episode is going to go one way. You think it's going to be like a double date and the ships are going to be sailing and we're going to and it was like really about two guys, you know, finding their friendship. Like they had such
Mhm.
great conversations with each other. And this season has allowed and given that time to do that because otherwise I don't feel like we ever would have gotten this conversation. I mean, in 7 seasons we never got an Archie Reggie like this kind of moment, right?
No.
It was funny when they were talking about like each like of the two like friends were talking about like, oh, it's like Archie's like, what about Marilyn Monroe? And then Reggie's like, oh, I'm a like Elizabeth Taylor. And then you see the POV of like Marlon Brando and Paul Newman.
Yeah.
It's like the
Blonde
subtext
brunette.
of those conversations was just like on another level.
Yeah, I found it funny because like one's blonde, one's brunette, and like Reggie's going after the brunette, Archie's going after the blonde. I thought it was
Especially too because Veronica did say you're a total Marilyn to Betty in episode 2, so it's
I
like a
missed
whole other
that.
thing of like,
Yeah.
who's more hotter than Marilyn Monroe? It's like Archibald.
Yeah.
I think you have a type.
Yeah, exactly. That was really cute. Yeah, there was some really great moments. And then basically what happens is like when Reggie comes home, it's like late and Archie's just sitting in the living room like, boy, where were you? Like
The dad
That
waiting up
was
for his
so
son.
funny.
yeah. And
In the dark.
in the
just turn
dark,
on the light,
so
yeah.
dramatic. Like so he's like, where was my car? And what does Reggie say? He's like, oh, like we went somewhere else, me and
Ran
Veronica.
around town.
We went around town. And I kind of was like, I feel like he's lying about something. Like, why would he be with Veronica this whole time? And like, we don't even get to see it, you know? Like, we don't even get any of that. So that kind of causes like a little bit of like a rift between the two. Like Archie's kind of like pissed at him at this point. Because I think Reggie does say like, oh, I went on the highway.
Yeah.
And Archie's like, oh, hell no, you didn't take my car on the highway. Like that thing's my baby. And then the next morning, V and B are talking. They're like, how was like your date night? And they're like, it was crap. Like these guys are useless. And I think Veronica's like, okay, let's just do a double date then. Maybe that's better. Like maybe that'll be a better idea.
Oh.
And she's like,
Strike number 2.
Strike number 2. And she's like, we're gonna go to Centerville. She's like, there's a whole plan. We can do that and that and that. That's fine. Then I guess they start at Pops, right? And when they're at Pops, somehow the boys like have like a newspaper or like a magazine and they're just looking over this thing like, oh my god, this car, oh my god, these rims, oh my god, and the girls are like, oh my god, like just pay attention to us.
Yeah.
It was funny because like when you get the establishing shot, it looks like they're actually having like a nice cute moment. Like they have like Archie's arm is like on the back of like the booth, and like then it just cuts to, oh, like look at this magazine, and it's just like, guys, what are you
Oh my
doing?
god, they were so annoying. And then I think Veronica was like, okay, it's time, like let's go now, like let's go to Centerville. And one of the funniest scenes, the keys are on the table and Reggie goes to like go grab it and Archie's like, what are you doing? And he's like, oh, I was gonna like drive. He's like, no, he's like, you drove here, I'm driving there. Just like fighting over the keys. And then it was so funny though, like it was just hilarious in every second. And they start driving and then I guess the car like breaks down. I'm like, right away I was like, oh my God, someone didn't put gas in this damn car. Like I just knew it, the stupidity on these guys. And Archie's like, there's no gas. And the girls are like, hey, well, we're wearing heels. Like you're gonna have to go back to Pops and like get gas. And we'll just wait here. At first I was like, who wants to wait on the side of the road, pitch black?
Two
And
girls
then
in the dark.
two girls in the dark, open
Yeah.
car. There's not even like a closed like area.
No
Um,
phone.
no phones.
Nothing.
There's a killer on the loose.
Yeah.
Because it's
Right.
Riverdale.
It's like the lonely highway. What technically is
yeah,
lonely.
yeah, basically. And during so that the girls are there, and then I think as they're waiting, another car pulls up, and it's Cheryl, Tony, and Midge who are on their way to Centerville. So they're like, just come with us, like forget the boys. So then like they hop in that car. And then we get that really beautiful scene with Reggie and Archie. I mean, at first they were like kind of fighting on the road, and then
In the road.
in the road,
Like literal
Literally in the
children.
road.
the middle of the road in darkness. Oh,
Oh my
they're
God.
such boys. They're just such boys.
Yeah.
And then it kind of takes a really nice shift, and like they have this really cute moment, and they have a really good conversation. Was that after Pops, or was that right before they get to Pops?
It's because they
That
walk
was
all the way.
after.
That was after. Yeah.
They've
Yeah.
Because they're
been walking
carrying.
and fighting about like, why didn't you like ask Clifford for a car, blah blah blah, and then
Yeah.
after they're
Yeah.
like have that emotional conversation.
Yeah, so Pops fills up the tank, and then they go, and then as they're walking back to the car, they have this really emotional scene, really beautiful scene. And then they see the car, and the girls are not there. And they're like worried, but like not really that worried, because even the music was like
Yeah.
doo, 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 doo. I was like, okay, I would be more worried.
Honestly, like the Reggie and Archie parts, it felt like a sitcom
Yeah.
almost because like there was a problem and then there was a resolution when they got back, and it's like it gave me very sitcom vibes.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
liked it.
And so that kind of cuts right there, and then we cut to the next morning, because as when they go to Pops, Pops basically like offers Reggie a free car. He's like, you could just take my jalopy. He's like, just whatever. So that was really nice of Pop. So
Yeah.
the next morning, Reggie's working on that car in the workshop, and then like Archie comes in. He's like, oh my God. He's like, yo, your car's like pretty beat up. He's like,
Yankee.
it looks worse than mine. He's like, whatever. I thought it was cute that Reggie named the car Bella, which was a shout out to the car in the
original timeline.
because
Yeah.
he named that Bella as well. I thought that was really cute. And as he's sitting there, Archie's like, oh, yo, like, do you need my help? And he's like, no. He's like, I have Betty's help. And he's like, Betty? And she's like walking with her like outfit and her wrench.
I love it.
Oh, I loved
And
it.
then she was like so unfazed. She's like, "Are you here to help?" And he's like,
Yeah.
"Help? What?
Yeah.
What is happening here?"
He's like, what are you doing? So, okay, let me ask you guys this. Do you feel like they're still gonna pit Archie, Reggie, and Betty together? Or was that
Yes.
just like a comedic like scene?
In a
I don't
way,
know.
I think they are like at least for one more episode,
Mm,
just to like kind of fully go with that, because that's kind of where they left that dynamic is like, oh crap. He's like realized, oh crap, if I don't get my shit together,
well, that's the thing, yeah.
what's gonna happen?
Because I can't tell. First of all, I get no sexual chemistry between Reggie and Betty. Like, I just don't feel it at all. She
Mm-mm.
doesn't look at him like that. He kind of did at first. I think he was kind of interested in, because she was like the girl next door. But I don't feel that between these two characters. And if there is going to be something there, I don't know. I just don't like, they're not giving each other any looks. There's no like serious looking, and like there's none of that. And maybe it's just something to sort of fuel Archie to be like, damn, I really like this girl. Like, I think I need to like get my act together and like ask her out, like, you know.
I think Archie's jealousy will come from just the fact that maybe they're spending so much time together on the car.
Mhm.
Like it's not romantic. They're just maybe Archie's like, "Do you want to go do this?" And it's like, "Oh, I'm going with Reggie to
Mm,
fix the car." And he's like, "I want my girl back. I
Yeah.
messed up."
yeah. So yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah.
It's interesting how they're gonna play with that.
Especially because the scene of like why he goes what is like about passing a wrench over, and like they just like smile at each other, and you think that they just basically said "I love you" to each other, and he's like, "Wait, what just happened?"
He's because he's kind of like what am I missing here? Like how am I on the outside of this, right? That's kind of like
Like
what because he's like, wait, what did she say? And they're like, nothing. Like just go to class. It's
it's
so
like
funny.
they're so funny with this dynamic because you expect the triangle aspect of this show to have happened with Veronica.
Hmm.
Instead, we brought in Reggie into this because it's like,
Hmm.
yes, I think they're gonna have this like a bit of a trio thing for like a minute still, but it's like one of those things where it's just like this is the funniest thing because it's like they obviously kind of want to like play off of each other, but he reads it as like, oh, they're flirting with each
Yeah.
other in such a way, but they kind of rejected each other.
Yeah.
But I don't
And he doesn't know that, right? Like, and it's
yeah,
again, it's like an ego thing, right? Where he's kind of like,
yeah.
wait, what's happening? Like they're talking without me or spending time without me. Um, on the other
Comic book.
side, how do you guys feel about Veronica and Reggie? Oh, we talked about this. You guys just want to see more of them, right?
I
Yeah.
think I think with their dynamic, it's because he is more interested in Veronica than Betty. I feel like Betty, because of that conversation that the boys had on the highway, where Reggie talks about like to him about Fred, and he's like,
Mhm.
Fred was my best friend, like my dad was my best friend and everything. And then Reggie's like, oh, what about Jughead and Betty? And um, Archie's like something about like, oh, like Jughead's like a good person, blah blah
Mm,
blah, but I can't like talk, like can't relate to him like I relate with you. And then when he's like the Betty thing brings up, he gets like speechless about it. He's like, Betty is just like
amazing.
and then he like
Hmm.
continues, and you have Reggie see
Yeah,
that whole like, oh, like I can't say what I want to say because I'm speechless about it. So like I think
he
it's
gets
being
it.
like a plot device kind of for like them to push themselves together in a way.
Yeah, and I do think that Reggie gets it, and that's why
Mhm.
I don't think he's like trying to flirt with Betty like within the during the
Hmm.
car scene. I just think he's using her, her whatever her skill set. But because I do feel that's a great point. Like that scene was there was a lot of like information in that one scene that Reggie and Archie having that conversation. And we
Mhm.
do find out in that scene that like Reggie he didn't go to the highway that night. He literally took the car and like went to see his parents because he missed his parents so much.
Mhm.
So that's he comes forward with that information, which was really nice to hear too. And yeah, like Archie hearing Archie say like I don't relate to Jughead, I was like, damn, like I didn't think I would hear that.
Yeah.
'Cause, like,
Because
they really haven't had friendship in this timeline at all.
they haven't interacted one on one since Jughead got his memory wiped.
Yeah,
The
Oh my
only time they've ever
God.
talked was when Jughead had his full memory
yeah,
So it's like
outside of
they
Graffiti.
were definitely childhood friends, but it's like they're not having like a lot of scenes together, I guess because, they want to have different storylines going on, like Jughead with Tabitha,
yeah,
Archie, Reggie. But I
Mhm.
would like to see them, cross paths.
I know.
I miss it.
It's in some way, and it's true. I think for the for the timeline of where we are now, it does make sense that they're not together because they are doing very
Mhm.
different things. And then like true to their characters, like they are very different. Like Archie's this like jock, guy with his car and his sports. And I mean Jughead's trying to solve a murder right now. So
Yeah.
he seems a little busy right now, which we can jump into the next storyline of the episode, which is the Rayberry mystery. And we kind of ended off last week where Keller walks into the pop signer and he's like, Jughead, I need your help. Like we as always can't solve this case. And he's like, I need your help figuring stuff out. So Jughead's like, okay, like what do you need my help with?
Mhm.
And he gets Tabitha to help him out, right? For this
Yeah.
one. And so Tabitha and Jughead they realize that half his paychecks Rayberry's paychecks were going to South Carolina, and they found
Mhm.
that pretty weird. And so I guess they go to his apartment, they're looking through some things. Um and basically Jughead just wants to find evidence that can prove that Rayberry didn't kill himself because that's what they're saying right now is that Rayberry killed himself, right?
Right.
um Tabitha finds a photo of his wife, or like who we found out later is his wife. Her name is June Simpson. Her number's like in the little phone book. So then Jughead calls her and tells her like, hey, like whoever you are, like Brad passed away. And then she sounded like really upset over the phone. Like you can tell like they have like a serious relationship. And then Tabitha was just like reading letters between Brad and June, and she says something like their love endured everything until their lives were threatened by like white thugs, and she tells like a whole story about that. And then Jughead sort of just starts to piece these like things together, and he's like, this doesn't make any sense. Like this doesn't sound like someone who like would be taking his own life at this point. And then I think at one point he goes to Sheriff Keller in the middle of the episode where he's like,
Yes.
this he didn't kill himself, like he, you know. And Keller like, he's like, no, he did. He was a communist. He was like a war,
Went to like a mental institution for a
mental
while.
institution.
He was a war, like he was against the war
He was
or
against
World
the
War
war.
II and all that stuff.
Just
yeah.
like totally like bashing, you know, Rayberry. I keep calling him Bradbury. Like
Brad Rayberry, Ray Bradbury.
Yeah,
Riverdale.
it's confusing.
It's so confusing. And so yeah, so Keller's basically like, no, like he 100% killed himself. Like, how are you so sure when you could not even figure out what happened?
I know. It's like, Tom, you asked Jughead for help, and he's
Exactly.
helping. Like,
And then
And you're
like,
not
no,
even listening. No.
Like, pick a lane.
And
Involved
this
or not.
exactly. And like this was the moment that I was like, do you even want to solve this case? Like, I don't
Yeah.
think you do. No, like for real. Like, I don't think you do, because I think he knows way more than he's saying, Sheriff Keller. And he's just like pulling stuff out to be like, no, 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 like this is the excuse. This is the excuse. Like, I just don't think that he's actually trying. So what I was saying was, I feel like Sheriff Keller doesn't want to solve this case. I truly feel like he knows something. He's on the inside. And I think he's just gaslighting Jughead, because I just doesn't feel like he wants to solve it. And he basically says all those things about Rayberry. And then once like Rayberry's wife shows up, June, she like basically like explains everything to Jughead, because Jughead was like, oh, like they're saying like he did this and this. And she basically like explains it all. She was like, he was actually a veteran of the Second World War. And that's why he felt so strongly about like the other war. Like he didn't want people to, oh no, sorry, he was a veteran and he got addicted to opioids while he was there. That, and he checked himself into the like mental health hospital, I guess. And then she was like, in terms of like him being a communist, she's like, he was like young and impressionable, and it was like the Great Depression, and so he was just like curious, like what is this communist party about? Like he was just like going to like a meeting and seeing what it's about. So she really does explain all those things that Sheriff Keller was trying to highlight. And Jughead's like, yeah, like I believe it, like it makes sense, like I don't think this guy would kill himself. But then he's like, but who would have him killed? And then June really does like jump into like all that whole like their history and the stories. And I just feel like something else is up. Like I really do feel like Keller or someone in the town is up to something, because obviously we do know that the milkman did something.
It seems like we know that Clifford, Featherhead, and Werther's already in cahoots with each other. So it wouldn't be surprising if like Tom is somehow brought into this in the background, and in 2 or 3 episodes from now, it's like, surprise, Tom Keller's
100%.
like on the payroll too.
100%.
Not my sweet Tom Keller.
I mean,
but we need to know the milkman's motive for killing, and we don't know that. So I feel like once we know why Brad was killed, we'll maybe figure out, because like there's really no correlation between Brad's death and Ethel's parents' murder.
I can't remember if it is like true or not, but I feel like Ethel's dad also worked at the maple factory.
Oh yeah.
So it could be related to like people who worked at the maple factory, like it's an antagonist.
We did find out that Brad worked
Yes.
there.
Yes.
Oh,
Now that
So
we're
was he
okay.
talking
uncomfortable?
about it, in film, they use milk as a symbolism for like mothers and like the mother theme. That's what milk is always like used for. I don't know if you guys
Mhm.
watch Westworld, but they
Yes.
use
Mm-mm.
milk a lot to show like the creation and the mother and like being born. And I'm now thinking about it. I'm like, are they trying to like use the milkman as some sort of throw to that now? But I don't know how I'm connecting, and I'm just putting it
I
out there that maybe there's something
I
there.
know that I haven't watched Sabrina, but through like threads on Twitter, there was an evil ice cream man in
Yes,
Sabrina. So there's
yes.
kind of maybe trying to make a
Oh.
correlation to that
Hmm.
in some weird way. But yeah,
Or
West, yeah.
he's just paid. Like they're just paying this guy to kill people, you
I
know?
noticed
Yeah.
in the promo of this episode, the guy that they have walk towards the door doesn't blink at all. It's like a very robotic person almost. And then like when he even is
Hmm.
at the door in the lot or the episode where he gets murdered, it's like doesn't even blink. It's like hello with
Yeah,
like
yeah.
eyes wide open.
Maybe he's like an
That dude is
assassin.
Is
terrifying.
that
Yeah.
true? I don't
I'm scared of that man.
Yeah.
sleep paralysis even.
Yeah.
So, so we'll get to the end of the scene. So basically what happens is she leaves, like June leaves. She's like, just whatever. He's like, I'll send you letters and stuff. And as Jughead's there, the old cat lady shows up from next door. And
Mhm.
she's like, "Oh, I was just wondering if like he has like extra milk in his fridge for my cat." And I'm like,
That
"Girl, it's been like days. Like that milk's probably gone bad."
that was such a random way for Jughead to find out about the milk correlation. That was so
So
weird.
I don't know, but I kind of liked like it was cracking me up, but I'm like, but then like as it was happening, I'm like, oh wait, like this is pretty cool. So she's like, I need milk for my cat, and he like opens the fridge. He's like, girl, there's no milk in here. Like, what are you talking about? She's like, well,
Mhm.
that's weird because she's like, I heard the milkman the other night, and he's like, how do
Mhm.
you hear the milkman? She's like, oh, the juggling of the bottles. She's like, I heard it through my door, and my kitty like heard it, and I was just like, this is ridiculous, but it does kind of make sense, right? Like she heard
Yeah.
someone clearly walking to his door, and now there's no milk in the fridge. So there was no milk delivered. And then Jughead's like, all right, like, well, because does Jughead know that the milkman killed Ethel's parents?
Yeah, because Ethel says that she saw someone dressed as the milkman.
Okay, so yeah,
And
so
And that
then
was
he's
the
like,
comic too, right? Milkman comic.
yeah,
yes, yeah. So that ends the episode right there. We get the black screen. I really did like how they did that. I think did it did make sense to me.
mhm.
They've had weirder, you know, plot
Yeah.
twists before, and I was like, okay, I'll buy this one. But the cat lady was just so funny. How she just wanted
Yeah.
milk for like, just go get milk, girl. Like, you're gonna get a dead man's like milk bottle. Like, it was just so weird,
And
but
also in the 50s, wasn't it like the milk came like every few days? So it's just like
yeah.
How did she already run out?
Just wait.
Gee.
it's like probably coming today. And just like
Her cat's thirsty. It would have been more believable if she had like 10 cats. She's
right.
like, I need.
This one cat, this old lady, like oh
Yeah.
my God.
So that was a definitely like a big development, which leads me more to think more that like these guys are up to something. Like this group of men in Riverdale, they're planned something. My thing is just like, why kill him? But now that you're saying the Maple thing, I'm like, yeah.
Hmm.
There was also the fact as well before Ray Bradbury died that he was like, "Oh, we're gonna bring you two to the Supreme Court against Jughead or whatever." So it's like
Mm.
there's that also. It's like people like speaking out
That's what
against
I feel
them as
like
well.
was the
Hmm.
nail in his coffin. When he said he was like, "We'll go against you. You can't control us." I was like, "Oh God."
Silence you is what's
Yep.
happening now.
You were silenced. So that's the end of the episode. Do you guys want to say anything else before we get into our theories and questions?
June is a Jabitha supporter because I think she sees her and Ray's old dynamic playing out
A
with the two
hundred.
of them.
Sorry, yeah, I
Hmm.
totally didn't even mention that. I thought that was so cute.
He's like,
I love
are you
Jabitha.
class or like she's like, what is your dynamic? And he's like, or she's like, good friends, and he's like, like
Yeah,
he
because they're
like,
not together yet, right? Like
oh,
for
Mhm.
us, like they're together because we've seen them together. But
Yeah.
she's like, "What are you guys?" And they're like, "Oh, nothing." And I thought it was really cute when Jughead was like, "I'll write you letters," like
mhm.
at the end when they're at Pops. I was like,
Oh
"That's really
yeah.
cute." That really like made me feel so like warm inside. They're
But
so
also
cute.
like the parallel with, well, yeah, the parallel with Jabitha's apartment in the normal day is Brad Rayberry's apartment.
It
Is
has
it?
So
that,
like,
yeah,
yeah, when they're
it's
sitting at the
redesigned.
table, I was just like, this is so
What?
crazy. Yeah.
It's
Could
redesigned
they could
apartment.
they be the they be the future version of June and Brad?
Isn't
Oh.
because
Oh
they
my God.
keep bringing up interracial couples into
Yeah.
their storyline and how significant it is to history.
Yeah.
So possibly, I don't know. It seems like they're really pushing the
Interesting.
Jabba stuff into this
Mhm.
direction of
The
being.
interracial part was very interesting because obviously that is a big connection there, right? Like, but I was trying to understand. I'm like, what are they trying to tell us here with this sort of similar connection? But maybe if we're really talking about where we land in the later on when we go back to 2020, are we hoping that our characters have learned in this timeline and can change things in 2020? If that's what we're hoping, that maybe like these are lessons that they're learning, you know?
It's the idea of, as Tabitha said, bend towards justice.
Mm-hmm.
And as Tabitha said before she leaves again, she's like, I want to go and like make sure that people get to love who they want to love. And that's like
Wow.
a big mission, especially going into Pride Month too, as well.
Oh.
Right.
Wait, also, though, if they're changing things and it affects the timeline of current day, then that might mean that Riverdale may not be like this crazy,
Right.
dark, twisted place, which would make sense of why it would end like that. Because why would we watch Riverdale if it's not crazy, you know? Like it ends where everything is good.
Well, it's
So
like,
we got a really good theory from a
oh,
fan.
Whoa.
We got a really good theory from a fan that kind of speaks on what you're saying, Macy, and I can't wait to read it
Hmm.
out to you guys because I'm not going to say it just yet, but it kind of goes into that, and I feel like that might be what happens. Okay, so let's do some fan theories, and you guys can chime in whenever you guys feel like it. We have one from Marach. Do you think Hermosa exists in this timeline? Would she make an appearance?
depends.
Why do I feel like she was somehow? Maybe I'm wrong.
Was there a phone call that Veronica had with her?
I
No,
cannot remember.
No.
Okay, there's not. Okay.
they've only, it's only, she's only ever called Hermione on the phone,
Right.
Okay.
or they've had messaging through Smithers, pretty much.
I just
So
don't feel like she's
Hermosa
important enough.
she's not she's not the one who's in the TV show with the parents, right?
No,
Yeah,
it's
she was.
no, it's they hired like Shirley Temple to be like the
Okay.
little
Oh.
girl.
Okay.
It's
Okay,
like
I'm
it's a
mixing
child that
everything up.
never grows up kind of thing.
Oh.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
but I feel like if like there will be certain characters like Hermosa that just don't exist maybe in this timeline, but that's part of maybe the motivation to get back. Like Polly and Jason's twins, they
Right.
likely don't even exist, but they're on the fringes of
Mhm.
this existence. But as they get their memories back, Betty's obviously going to be like, I need to go and
Yeah.
save my niece and nephew, kind of thing. Like,
But
because they're
even
all
then,
supposed to be alive. So.
yeah. But even then, like Veronica was never that close to her sister to be like, I want to go back to the future to get my sister back. Like if they were close like that, I'd be like, yeah, like definitely. But
Yeah.
I don't even see that connection really happening. Um, a lot of these things with Riverdale too is the logistical aspect, right? Like they just don't want to pay the actor or get the actor, or they can't get the actor, and so that person that actor won't, is not on set. So sometimes I just feel like it has to do with that too.
Mhm.
At Tipsy83 says Jughead stays in the 50s like Reese in Pleasantville to be with Tabitha because she
Mm.
is dead in the present day.
Yeah,
Wait,
yeah,
is she
that's
dead
what
in the present day?
she says to him. Guardian Angel Tabitha says, I used what is left of my life force to send you guys here.
Oh my
Oh my
God.
God.
So that either she is dead or they do the Riverdale thing of like
Yeah.
this Tabitha gets to go with them to into the OG timeline. Like how they have like how in Riverdale they had like the two Jugheads operating at the same
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
That kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Oh my gosh.
So would you be okay with Jughead stayed in the 50s with Tabby?
Wouldn't be too mad
I
about
think I think everyone would be furious.
Really?
Yeah. I don't because he wouldn't interact, with
Yeah. Yeah.
his friends anymore in the current day, and it's like his life in the current day just is at a standstill,
Yeah.
you know. I don't know. I kind of like that too because I love Jabitha. So it's like,
Yeah, me too. The
if they
Bughead ships are gonna freak out.
mhm,
if they actually because the thing is it's like they committed to like those two being like the only two to survive like the comparison of like they're the only two that survived the comet so like them having to stay back I feel like Jabitha is very much tied to them going it back like I know how they in the first episode mentioned oh it's Barchi that's gonna have to save us all blah 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 but it's most likely
Yeah.
gonna be Jabba. That's stupid. If they have to stay back, who knows?
Yeah.
Because we can throw in Rivervale, Jughead, and all of that in the current timeline. Wouldn't
mhm.
matter.
Interesting.
Um,
Yeah, I guess yeah, we'll see how they write that out, I guess.
mhm.
Okay, so at Sierra N had like 8 theories and I just
Sure.
summarized it to like two. So sorry we can't read them all out here. But their first one said lots of things that don't add up about what Tabitha said in 701 and the rules about this timeline. If what Tabitha said is true, they are in the prime Riverdale universe. But the 50s, how but the 50s, how is Julian a human and how is Jason wiped from this timeline completely? Julian isn't an exact replacement.
It's
What
Wait,
did Tabitha say in 701?
she's like because a lot of the universes were tangled up together, and this one was one of them that was like not tangled because
Okay.
When Cheryl tried to melt the comet, it didn't work. And
Mm,
then because of that, Tabitha had to send them back into the or forward slash back into the future or past, sorry. And this was one of the timelines that wasn't corrupted.
mm,
So it's the variable is like that maybe Julian is the twin that survived instead of Jason. So like
right.
it's like mixing it up instead, or
Yeah,
like
that makes sense.
Fred going to Korea or being a war veteran wasn't something that happened in
Right.
the real
Like some things
timeline.
are going to be different, basically.
I think
Yeah.
it's also because they're having implanted memories. Like
Mm,
Kevin and Betty, way back in those episodes, were supposedly dating for 2 years, but we only know they've been in this timeline for around a month and a half.
mhm.
right.
So they're operating on different memories in a way.
Right. Yeah, yeah, that's crazy.
This is so
Um,
crazy.
it's so crazy. I'm really looking forward to how they sort of bring everything back
Mhm.
together. Really looking forward to
Yeah.
that. The second part to the theory is so this is a long one. The comet is a fixed point in time and can't be prevented. Riverdale is stuck in a major time loop, and every time Tabitha has tried to stop Riverdale being destroyed, she fails. The
Mhm.
one time she tries things differently is in season 5 when the heart of Riverdale, Archie, as said in season 1, leaves to go to the army and coincidentally Tabitha arrives. It's when Tabitha arrives that
Hmm.
Cheryl starts gaining witch powers before the bomb. It's when everything goes supernatural. This time, Tabitha tried preventing the comet differently by entering Riverdale when the town is at its weakest and on the edge of disappearing. This time, she sends everyone back a lot further, 1955, because she now knows she needs more time to fix things after the comet. This time, the characters have to brave the dangers of 1950s and bend towards justice to create a better Riverdale for when they get back to the 2020s. As before Riverdale, while a town believed to be innocent, was bathed in blood and always a dark town. By going into the 50s, they have time to change the course of events. Oh my gosh, got chills. And return to July 4th, 2018, the day Jason and Cheryl go to Sweetwater River. And this
Stop.
time, Jason lives. Or
Wow.
Julian being in
Oh my
Jason's place is how they avoid Jason's death, aka the catalyst for everything we watched in season 1 to 6. After this, Tabitha breaks the time loop and has officially created a better universe for Riverdale, and the darkness has seized. So that was really
Whoa.
like, that was what I was like getting to before. Like, imagine this all just starts off from where we started in the pilot.
Oh my God. Like it starts with
It's like a reset.
Cheryl and Jason in the car,
Yeah.
but like they just like actually just go out to the river and then they come back and none of that ever happened.
Exactly. Like you can say the innocence was lost after that, but there was so much
Mhm.
shit that happened after that that like it was having nothing to do with Jason. Like it really
Yeah.
didn't. But I can see
Yeah.
what they're trying to do there, you know.
Mhm.
I think with that, like with the whole thing of like re-going that full circle to the show, it would make sense because in a parts of the last season, when some of them had their heavens, it was like this was my eternal happiness where nothing was
Hmm.
wrong. So it's like a thing of like when they want to go back, it'll be something that's very peaceful, like a traditional series
Yeah.
finale thing of like there's no more problems anymore.
Yeah.
Um, in terms of the whole thing about Jason and his death, I remember going back, I remember now how in the season premiere, when they talked about how Emmett Till has his body was thrown into the river,
Hmm.
they make sure to highlight and show Julian's face. So like
Wow.
there's like a boy like being thrown into the river and then they like slows his face. So
That's
possibly
interesting.
Oh my
there's something
God.
related
There's a
to that.
connection there. Yeah. Wow. Okay, that's a lot of stuff there. That's crazy. Okay. Are we good for theories, questions? We can get into our recap. Okay, yes,
Oh wait,
Miss.
I have I have one thing to add.
Yeah.
Um, I kind of okay, so not like this last episode, but I think it was last week's episode. I can't keep up anymore.
Yeah.
It's so much is going on. It's when Tabitha is at the his Jughead's train car, and they're reading about the comet. Did anyone else think that maybe that Tabitha is present
Mm.
day Tabitha coming back to give hints,
Oh my
sort of?
God. What made you think that other than the conversation? Was there anything else?
Well, what was it? I'm trying to remember. It was I think it was just definitely the comment and she kept like I know like there was other implications of why she chose the comment ones because interracial couple and she wanted them to read that together, but also I just feel like it was something about that and maybe she's pointing trying to like fix something to get Jughead's mind. I don't know. I don't
Yeah,
know.
that's a
There's
good point.
but like I keep wondering if Tabitha coming back
Like, which one
is
is it?
present. Yeah,
Is
which one is it? Because she can't like go up to Jughead in the 50s and be like, "Hey, I'm the guardian angel, Tabitha," blah blah, because he'll freak out and he won't listen.
I wonder if any Riverdale sleuths have like figured out if she's wearing something different
it's
or
Hmm.
if I remember correctly, when they show her in 701, she's wearing more modern clothes
yes.
and she
I
doesn't
know.
have her
Oh,
glasses on
Yeah,
at all. And that doesn't click with him. Like, oh, she's
right.
not wearing her glasses. But they keep
mhm.
showing her wearing glasses. So it's like
Mm,
there's a visual difference too in
Okay.
terms of like who this one is. Yes, of course, Tabitha took off her glasses for 5 seconds in this
yeah.
episode, but it seems like that's the thing where
I
like
think
the
the
glasses
glasses would
are
be
the
too
thing.
obvious,
Okay.
like for us, for the viewers, you know? Like if
Mhm.
they kept doing that and her glasses were off, like I feel like we'd be like, what's going on there? But I wonder if there's something else in the scene that they're putting in that we need to look out for.
Mhm.
The subtext is very much a thing, like,
Yeah.
because the comment was about like how they were the only two. The thing was like to survive in New York. Is like, yes, we know that Riverdale is in the state of New York.
Right.
As like, why specifically that? And also too, the end of the premiere has his original beanie show up, which we know was tied to Percival, but Tabitha could go get it and bring it to him.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's so many possibilities.
Yeah. And there's a lot of these connections, right? Like now you're saying New York. I'm like, yeah, they talk about New York in this episode too. Yeah. Okay. That's good stuff. Hopefully someone can piece this all together, or we just gotta wait and see
we'll
how
think
they
of
do it.
something and then it'll be something completely different. They'll
Totally.
like, we want
Yeah.
this direction and go veer off this way.
Totally. Like I said, and I know J-Lag was really impatient. He was like, I want to know what's happening. I want to get to that point. And I was like, just enjoy the ride. Like, really, I'm really just enjoying this journey that we're having with these characters because we have not gotten this from previous seasons. So that's where I'm trying to hold on to that. But obviously now we're episode 10. So we are getting into the territory of like, all right, we got to start uncovering some things now. Okay, let's get into our recap roundups.
Recap roundups. Best moment.
What was your best moment, Macy?
I think my best moment was Reggie and Archie just being goofy. Like, I really loved their dynamic because we were so used to seeing their dynamic as jocks, like in the current day, like, I don't know, being just boys.
Boys, yeah.
Well, I mean, they're still acting like that now, but it's more like innocent, goofy, playful. They still, you can tell they care about each other. And I don't know. I really enjoyed that. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, agreed.
I think my best moment was the whole the whole date aspect, because it's like very comic booky, like that those two are like talking about something and the girls are like, oh my god, like pay attention to us, and they're like on their own, like,
yeah.
I mean, and it's just like the funniest thing because you're like waiting for this moment. It's like building up. We waited for like so long for this moment, and like this is what we get. It's like
I know
the comedy of it all.
Yeah.
Like
I can almost see it on like a comic book page. Like that's how much it's so comic booky. I agree with both of you. Mine was all Archie Reggie scenes because I was cracking up. It was so much fun to watch. Yeah, that was my best moment. I couldn't even pick one because they were all so good.
WTF moment.
For me, it was just like, what did the milkman want with Brad? Like, I was just like, what was the reason for killing him? Like, I'm just kind of lost there.
And as you say that, now I'm really thinking like, sometimes there is no reason. Most times maybe there is no reason. Like even when June was talking about like how they were like, the white thugs were like, bashing in their house and all these things, she's like, there is no reason other than like I'm colored and he's white. Like there's just no like justifiable reason for any of this. But then like to what we also discussed, like I feel like Brad just stepped on people's toes and they got scared and they were like, you're out, like we're gonna cut you out, or something to do with the maple factory. I don't know.
Yeah
we'll find out in like 5 episodes from now, and
yeah,
it's just like one of those moments where like this is the answer.
Yeah.
Mine is the fact of why we made Fangs this like huge storyline for no reason, and then all of a sudden one performance after he did his performance at the top up like 8 episodes ago, he's now this megastar.
Yeah,
it's like
I don't get it.
Like I get it, but it's also like this was the storyline.
No, like
today.
There has to be a connection. Like there has to be some huge connection that transcends the generations. Like maybe he's famous, maybe his fame like transcends the generations and like there's a connection there. I don't know. There has to be something major though, because I just don't get it. My moment was the cat lady with the milk, because I was like, I did love it, but I was just like, what? Like it was a cat lady who heard the milkman, and that's another thing. Like Sheriff Keller, if he just had done his job, he could have easily interviewed her and been like, and she would have been like, yeah, where's my milk? Like I heard the milkman.
The neighbors. Come on, that's like rule 101.
That's literally step 1. Like
MVP.
I said Cheryl because she's just so supportive, and you can tell how much she cares about Tony, and I don't know, just the way she was in the group, she was just very like, I don't know, I just really enjoyed that she just sat back and wanted to listen, but she also wants to learn, and I really liked that.
I picked Tabitha because there's not many episodes we can choose Tabitha.
Yeah,
and
true.
also without Tabitha's knowledge, we wouldn't have figured out, or it would have taken 5 more episodes for Jughead to figure out that there's this love story that's in the middle of Ray Bradbury's mystery, and how all of that like really cute stuff with them, and like getting to see her on this storyline just makes the episodes where it's just Jughead worth it.
100%. And that leads me to my MVP, which is actually going to be Jughead. And I don't think I've ever chosen him as my MVP, but I have to say he's just different in this timeline. And I don't know if it's because of Tabby. Like, he's just so much more like rational, like not as impulsive, like he thinks things through, and he listens. Like, he really listens to what's happening. And then he's like coming up with his theory, where like I feel like in the other timeline, like he's does something quickly and like doesn't really think everything through, and like he was kind of annoying. But in this version, like I'm loving what he's doing, especially with this case. And of course Cheryl. Like I have to choose Cheryl because she was amazing this week too.
LVP.
Do we all have the same one?
I don't know, maybe. I said Reggie and Archie because they did not care about being with the hottest girls in school, and they cared more about that stupid car.
I like that angle. Yeah.
Also, that was my best moment, but
it can be both.
Yeah,
they fumbled for sure.
They did.
Tom Keller, because it was like the come here, go away of this investigation. It's like, do you want him or not?
Yeah.
I'm bringing you evidence, but you don't want it.
No.
And also, does he have a southern accent now?
Does he?
I guess.
It sounds kind of southern.
Oh my god.
I don't know either.
Reggie's accent sometimes. It's like, what are we doing?
Yes, totally.
I've noticed that too.
It like comes in and out. Okay, my LVP is Sheriff Keller, obviously. And just for all the things that we talked about, and especially like I don't think he's trying to solve this murder. Especially because he should have 100% interviewed Cat Lady. Like that should have been on his to-do list of things. Like that's crazy to me.
The best line.
I said the "Am I grounded?" line. it was like either that one or when Reggie called Jughead beef soup can.
Yeah.
And Archie was like, his name's Jughead. I really laughed at that.
That was funny.
I loved it.
Those two were some of the really good ones. The other one was like Betty, when she's like, I would marry Paul Newman, but I would like want one like not like one wild night with Marlon Brando. And then Veronica goes, Betty Cooper, you naughty girl. And then the line afterwards where they're like, why don't you do with like, we have Paul and Marlo right here, like let's go hang out with them, like let's go play with them. It's like
they're really cute together. I also liked when Veronica was like, girl, like your face is looking like glowing. She's like, what are you doing, like a serum? She's like, no, just soap and water. Like nothing.
I wrote in my notes, I was like, lucky.
Yeah, exactly. Like no face like routine, nothing, just soap and water. My best line was from Archie when he's in the diner and he's like, where else is there to go in Riverdale other than Pops? He was like so frustrated.
Yeah.
And he just screamed it out. It was so funny. I'm like, yeah, that's actually true. Like, where are you guys?
Like, it's also like, if Archie, you would also know that Makeout Point is a
thing. Exactly.
Bro.
Exactly. Some of our listener roundups, I'll quickly go through them. At Julia Foreman, best moment, Jabitha meeting with Mrs. Rayberry and sleuthing together in general. Best moment, Archie and Reggie leaving the girls alone at night on the side of the road with no gas and no roof. MVP, Cheryl. I feel like she's really stepping up, self-reflecting, and trying to educate herself in order to be a better partner to Tony. LVP, Sheriff Keller, obviously. Best line, Archie in dad mode. Do you have any idea what time it is? Some from at Marina. Best moment, all the scenes between Archie and Reggie were funny, and also with moments of serious talk. They gave me little brother vibes the whole time. Also, the scene of Reggie fixing the car with Betty and Archie's face. I love it. The scenes from the book club and Cheryl's reaction was beautifully done. WTF moment, I am going to say Frank being in this chapter a semi-friendly character. Plus, Jughead's story is always more enjoyable to watch when he's with Tabby. MVP, I'm going to give it to Pop. He appears rarely and not in all episodes, but whenever he does, he has a good gesture and a word of encouragement. I thought that was really sweet to make him MVP. LVP, Tom Keller, no need to explain. Best line, Tony, I was worried people will feel uncomfortable around you or that you'll feel uncomfortable around my friends. And Cheryl says, they are, and I was. Not so much uncomfortable as I was worried that I wasn't going to say the right things at first. Thought that was really beautiful. Really, really good moments between those two this episode. Okay, guys, that's it for the podcast. Thank you guys for joining. This was so much fun.
Thank you for having me.
So before we go, I want to just thank our Patreon members of the episode, our Rewinder squad, White, Cliff, Hannah, Julia, and Haley, our Lit Rewinders, Tina, Ann, and Kate, our Mommy Rewinder, Becca, Sarah. If you would like to join our Patreon family, check us out at patreon.com/recap_rewind. Follow these gals on Twitter. They'll be talking Riverdale all season long. Thank you guys. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.